There was a time when my mornings began with the sound of my son's voice. "Mom, tea?" That soft, familiar call used to echo through the house like sunlight through curtains. Saad was never a loud child. Even as a boy, he loved quietly, deeply, consistently, without needing to announce it. He would sit beside me while I cooked, leaning his head against my shoulder, as if the world made more sense from that spot. And I built my life around that quiet love. I did not realize then that one day, the same silence would grow between us, not peaceful, but distant. And one day, I would stop asking where I stood in my own son's life. When Saad was little, he held my hand as if it were the only safe place he knew. I still remember his first day of school. He clung to my dupatta and whispered, "Mom, you'll wait here, right?" "I will always wait for you," I had promised. And I did. Years passed in routines that felt permanent. His school lunches, late-night exams, small fevers, quiet victories. I knew his favorite tea, the way he liked his shirts folded, the exact tone of his voice when he was tired but pretending not to be. People used to say, "Your son is very attached to you." I would smile with pride. No one warned me that love can change shape without changing truth. When Saad told me he wanted to marry Sanaa, I did not resist. He spoke gently that day, avoiding my eyes. "Mom, she is kind. You'll like her." And I believed him. On the wedding day, I watched him sit beside his bride, smiling, attentive, present in a way that was new. Not wrong, just new. Sanaa was beautiful, educated, polite. She greeted me with respect and called me Mom from the first day. I welcomed her with open arms. I truly did, because I never wanted to be the mother who made her son choose between love and loyalty. But what no one tells a mother is this. Sometimes, you don't get replaced loudly. You get replaced quietly. At first, it was small things. Saad stopped drinking tea in the kitchen with me. He now drank it in his room, with Sanaa. He stopped telling me about his day. Instead, I heard his laughter through the closed door of their room. He stopped asking, "Mom, did you eat?" and began asking, "Sanaa, did you rest?" These were not betrayals. They were transitions. And I kept telling myself that. "He is married now," I whispered to my own heart. "This is normal." But normal changes can still hurt. One evening, I cooked his favorite meal. Chicken paleo, the way he loved since childhood. I set the table and called softly, "Saad, dinner's ready." From the room, his voice came distracted. "We already ordered food, Mom. Sanaa wasn't feeling well." I stood there for a moment, holding the serving spoon. "Oh, okay." That night, the food stayed untouched on the table until it went cold. He did not even notice. And I did not complain, because mothers are trained to adjust before they are allowed to feel. Before marriage, Saad used to sit beside me and talk endlessly. After marriage, our conversations became scheduled. "How are you, Mom?" "I'm fine, son." "Did you take your medicine?" "Yes." Short, polite, careful, like we were guests in each other's lives. One day, I knocked on his door. He opened it halfway. "Yes, Mom?" "Halfway. Not fully. I just wanted to ask if you'll have tea." He glanced behind him at Sanaa, then back at me. "We'll have it later."
We.
Not we as in us. We as in them. And for the first time, I felt like the house had quietly changed its center. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Relatives had come over. One of them laughed and asked Saad, "Who is closer to you now, your mother or your wife?" Everyone laughed. I did not. Saad smiled awkwardly and said, "Life changes after marriage." That was all. Not cruel, not harsh, just honest. But honesty can sometimes hurt more than harshness. I excused myself and went to the kitchen, pretending to check the tea. My hands trembled as I held the cups. Not because he chose his wife, but because he no longer needed to reassure his mother. Days turned into months. I noticed new routines forming without me. They went out together. They made decisions together. They laughed together. And I adjusted quietly. I stopped waiting for him at dinner. I stopped knocking on his door. I stopped asking if he needed anything. One evening, I overheard Sanaa saying gently, "Saad, your mother is very quiet these days." And he replied, "She has always been strong." Strong. That word felt heavy, because strength, to them, meant silence. The turning point was not dramatic. There was no fight, no argument, no harsh words. Just one small moment. I fell slightly ill one night. Not serious, just weakness and fever. I sat in the living room, hoping he would notice. He walked past me with his car keys. "Going out?" I asked softly. "Yes, Sanaa has a doctor's appointment."
He paused.
"Do you need anything?" I looked at him for a long moment, and then I said, "No, son. I'm fine." That night, I made my own tea, took my own medicine, covered myself with my own shawl. And somewhere between the quiet and the loneliness, I stopped asking where I stood. The next morning, something inside me changed. Not bitterness, not anger, just clarity. I realized that love does not disappear after marriage, that IT just gets redistributed. And mothers who keep asking for their place often lose their peace. So I decided something simple. I would love him, but I would stop measuring my importance in his daily attention. I began spending time in my own room, reading,
Praying. Writing.
living, not withdrawing, just repositioning my heart. Weeks later, Saad came into my room. He looked around, confused. "You stay here most of the time now, Mom?" I smiled gently. "I like the quiet." He sat beside me after many days. "You don't sit with us anymore." I did not accuse him, that I did not complain, that I did not remind him of anything. I simply said, "You have your own life now, son. And that is how it should be." He looked at me carefully, as if trying to read something deeper. But some emotions are too quiet to be explained. One evening, Sanaa came to my room. She hesitated before speaking. "Mom, have I done something wrong?" Her voice was sincere. I shook my head immediately.
"No, son."
"You did nothing wrong." Tears filled her eyes. "You don't sit with us like before. I thought maybe you're upset." For the first time, I saw her not as the woman who took my son's time, but as a woman trying to find her place in a new home. And suddenly I understood. She was adjusting too.
Just like I was.
I never told Saad how lonely I felt. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I loved him enough not to make him feel guilty for growing up. A mother's love should not become a weight. It should remain a shelter, even if she stands outside that shelter alone. Now, my mornings are quieter. No one calls out for tea the way he used to. But I still make it. Out of habit, out of love, out of memory. Sometimes Saad joins me. Sometimes he doesn't. And I no longer count the times. Because the day I stopped asking where I stood, I finally found where I belonged. Within myself. Within my dignity. Within a love that does not demand attention to exist. I am still his mother. He still respects me. He still cares in his own way. He still loves me. But he no longer revolves around me. And that is not abandonment. That is life. So now, when people ask, does it hurt when children change after marriage? I smile and say softly,
No.
It hurts only when you keep asking where you stand. Because the day I stopped asking, peace quietly stepped in. And in that peace, I learned the most difficult lesson of motherhood. Letting go without feeling replaced. That night, the house was unusually quiet. Not the peaceful quiet I had learned to accept, but the kind that makes memories louder than sounds. I was folding Saad's old childhood clothes, the ones I had never had the heart to give away. A small blue sweater slipped from my hands, and I smiled faintly. He used to refuse to take it off, even in warm weather. "Mom, this one is lucky," he would say. I pressed the sweater to my chest for a moment, then gently placed it back in the cupboard, like returning a memory to its place. Just then, I heard slow footsteps outside my room. A soft knock. Not rushed, not distracted, just familiar. "Mom?" For a second, my hands froze. That voice. That same tone from years ago. "Come in," I said quietly. The door opened fully this time. Fully. Saad stepped inside, and behind him stood Sanaa, silent, respectful, unsure. He looked around my room as if seeing it for the first time. The neatly folded shawls, the prayer mat in the corner, the untouched teacup beside the window. "You sit here alone every night?" he asked. I smiled gently. "Not alone, son. Just quietly." His eyes softened, but something inside them trembled. He walked closer and sat on the floor near my feet, just like he used to as a child. And in that moment, time folded. "Mom," his voice cracked slightly, "have you been feeling distant from us?" I could have said yes. I could have told him about the silent dinners, the cold food, the closed doors, the conversations that slowly excluded me. But motherhood has a strange dignity. So I only placed my hand on his head. "You got busy building your life," I said softly. "And I stepped back so you could build it peacefully." His head lowered. "I thought you were strong," he whispered. I smiled through moist eyes. "I am strong, Saad. That's why I stopped asking for attention." Silence filled the room. Heavy.
Honest.
Emotional. Sanaa slowly stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "Mom, we never wanted you to feel left out," she said, her voice shaking. "I thought giving you space was respect." I looked at her, really looked at her. Not as the woman who took my son's time, but as the woman who was learning how to share a family she entered later than me. And suddenly, my heart softened in a way I didn't expect. "You didn't take my place, son," I said gently. "You just took your own." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Saad finally looked up, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Not guilt, not obligation, but realization. "When did you stop sitting with us?" he asked. I paused. "On the day I realized I was waiting to be invited into conversations that once started with me." His breath hitched. "And you never told me?" I shook my head slowly. A mother does not complain when her child grows. She just learns how to love him from a quieter distance. That sentence broke something inside him. Before I could react, Saad leaned forward and rested his head in my lap, just like he used to when the world overwhelmed him as a child. And suddenly, he was no longer a grown man. He was my little boy again. "I'm sorry, Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I didn't forget you. I just got used to you always being there." My fingers instinctively moved into his hair, the way they had done 1,000 times before. "I was always there," I replied softly. "I just stopped standing where I wasn't needed." The room filled with quiet tears. Not loud sobbing, not dramatic apologies, just the kind of crying that heals instead of hurts. Sanaa slowly sat beside us and held my hand. "We want you with us, Mom," she said gently. "Not out of duty, out of love." I looked at both of them, my son and the woman he chose to build his future with. And for the first time in months, I did not feel replaced. I felt included. But something inside me had already changed. I no longer needed to ask where I stood, because I finally understood something deeper. A mother's place is not in daily conversations, shared meals, or constant attention. Her place is in the foundation of her child's life, even when he stops noticing the ground beneath his feet. I lifted Saad's face and wiped his tears. "Don't be sorry for growing up," I said with a soft smile. "Just don't forget the silence that raised you." He held my hands tightly. "I'll never let you feel alone again." I smiled, a calm, peaceful smile. Not because he promised, but because I no longer depended on promises for peace. That night, for the first time in a long time, we had tea together. No phones that no rushed, no distance. Just 3 people learning how to become a family again. Later, when they left my room, Saad paused at the door and turned back. "Mom?" "Yes, son?" He hesitated, his voice soft and emotional. "Where do you stand in my life?" I looked at him with the kind of love only a mother understands. And I answered quietly, "I don't stand anywhere, Saad. I live in the parts of you that the world will never see." Tears filled his eyes again. The door closed gently behind him, and as I sat alone by the window, I realized something profound. I did not win my son back that night. I found my peace. Because the truth was never that he stopped loving me. The truth was that I stopped asking for proof of it. And in that silent acceptance, my love became lighter, my heart became calmer, and my dignity remained untouched. Now, when the house is quiet, it no longer feels empty. It feels complete, because I am no longer the mother waiting to be remembered. I am the mother who loved so deeply that she stepped back without bitterness, stayed without complaint, and healed without being asked. And that, perhaps, is the most emotional place a mother ever learns to stand, not in the center of her child's life, but peacefully in the background of his happiness. If you feel the story, subscribe it for more life reflections.